Marketers avoid making assumptions. Now, there's two reasons we don't get the desired action we want. So what do we want? More people at church. Why don't we get it? There are only two reasons. This is the same reason businesses go out of business, because they didn't work. Nonprofits, the same for everyone. The two reasons are, number one, you're talking to the wrong people. So your target audience up there is the incorrect person. So if we're talking to people who have no interest in faith or spirituality at all, well, we're just talking to the wrong people, right? The second reason is we're talking to the right people, but we're meeting the wrong need. We're offering to give them something that they don't want. The guy with the blind man with the back pain, he's like, well, I don't really want that. And you take it back. That's not really that important. And so we're back up here. So we're talking to the wrong people altogether, or we're talking to the right people, but we're meeting the wrong need. Now, here is how marketers avoid making assumptions. We get feedback. And so you can kind of see this I'm saying the same thing in different ways. The assumptions part here is when I create a ministry or a product or a service and I perfect it before I put it out, I'm assuming that I know what my audience wants. But I don't know. Did they tell me? No. I'm just saying, well, if I were them, this is what I would want, but I'm not them. So there's a really, really big difference between what I think my audience wants. There's a big difference between what I think my audience wants and what my audience actually wants. And usually the difference there is big enough to get you absolutely no results. Okay? So we don't want to make assumptions, and we do that by getting feedback. Now, I want to give you an example here, just for the church, okay? Let's say that on a Sunday, we're preaching a sermon, and we'll just go back to the ridiculous one we used last time. Let's say we're getting more theological, and we're talking about Calvinism versus free agency or free will or whatever it is, okay? So we're talking about something, and this is the person, the target audience up here that we got to our church because we went and we connected. And the target audience they're blue-collar men. These are the decision makers in their households. They're working, maybe construction, maybe at the airport, maybe at Waikiki. They have young families, so they're probably, maybe the guys are 25 to 34. They've got some kids, maybe have, a girlfriend or a wife. They're low income, BRAC there, I apologize for the typo, and high cost of living. Now, what's the problem? Are we either speaking to the wrong people, and I'll remind you, they're sitting in your auditorium, or are we giving the right people the wrong information? Because as it turned out, they didn't really register with the sermon. What do you guys think? Are we talking to the correct audience or the wrong audience? Or are we giving them the wrong message? Okay, and I got wrong message. Because what is a message that will actually relate with these people? What's a problem that you can foresee them having? We've got blue-collar, young man, 25 to 34, young family, kids, low income, high cost of living. Okay, financial, right there, okay? Maybe anxiety. Maybe they're feeling anxious. Well, man, all this stuff's going on. I just lost my job. How am I going to, right? So financial, anxiety, right? Psalms 23 comes to mind. Even though I walk through the valley of death, we need extra faith. Yeah, leading through crisis, how to be a leader. Okay, so these are things that are going to relate with these gentlemen. But if we're speaking a sermon that is unrelated to these topics, they're going to check out. They're going to go somewhere else. Okay, and so the way that we know we're giving the right sermons is through feedback. The way that we know we're offering the right ministries is through feedback. I don't know until I ask them. So in question 3 here on your paper, this one here, which of the two problems from the last slide do we have? And we just said, you can write this in if you would like, but this is just, we're talking to the right people. They're sitting in our auditorium, but we're giving them the wrong message. We're offering to meet a need they don't have. Okay? Now, what types of sermons would better fit the audience? Again, we said faith, financial, getting through hard times, leadership. How do we find out what they want? Surveys, polls, Google analytic programs for the tech team over here. Analytic will tell you your target audience on your website. 80% of them are that guy right there. And now you know who you're talking to on your website. Okay, and so we can get all this information and then give them what they want. Why? Because they just told us what they want. And so let's see here. Before we continue, I want to give you one more example to hammer this home, because I found that these are really abstract and they're hard to wrap your mind around. But once you start doing it, you start getting really good results, and you're like, wait, why did that work? Okay, I want you to imagine just a little mental example here. Imagine sitting at a table, and there's someone sitting across from you, and you have a lump of clay. You have a lump of clay, and you're blindfolded. And your goal is to make something that the other person will buy for you. And they'll pay as much as they want. They determine the value. So you're blindfolded, and someone says, go, and you start sculpting. If you're doing the ineffective mindset, the ready, aim, fire, you're not asking for feedback, you're trying to perfect it before you give it to them, you're blind. You don't know what you're making. So you're sculpting, and you're like, this is going to be great. This is going to be, I don't know, a sculpture of me. It's going to be wonderful. And you slide it across the table after however long you made it, and you only get to take your blindfold off when they give you feedback, because because we don't decide how valuable our services are. The people getting them decide. So when you hand your product, your service across the table to this person, and they look at it and they go, this is horrible. This is the worst thing I've ever seen. That's not good. You didn't get any feedback from them. Not only that, you assumed that they wanted a sculpture of you. Maybe they wanted a sculpture of a dog or a boat. You never asked. So we're totally off base, and it doesn't look good because you were blind. The other side of this, effective marketers, ready, fire, aim, we don't make assumptions. Okay? So I sit down, I've got my blindfold on, I get that clay, and I say, hey, what would you like a sculpture of? And they go, a dog. Great, okay. And then I start sculpting a dog. And then the second that I get anything formed, I'm going to go, okay, how's this dog look? And they're like, no, I don't want a Chihuahua. I want a Doberman. I'm like, okay, great. And I keep going, until they stop giving me feedback. And then I get to take my blindfold off. But even wearing the blindfold, I knew a lot of what they were seeing and what they were wanting, because they decide the value. And when I get to take it off and I slide that across the table, they say, it's a masterpiece. I'll give you everything I own for this. It's going to be the centerpiece of my whole house. Because why? Because it meets their need, because they told you what they wanted. Okay? That's how we avoid assumptions, and that's exactly what we do when we create ministries or products or services or whatever we do. It's not about what we think what people want. It's about what they actually want, and we just need to ask them as quickly as we can. So last question. How can you get feedback from the people in your ministry? So tech team, that's going to be different than a regional pastor, is going to be different from a Bible study leader, something like that. So on your paper, maybe write down some ideas. Can you give a poll? Facebook, polls. It takes you 5 seconds to make one. You can get a ton of information. In a Bible study, I might have 3 questions, a 3-question survey, and I just ask everybody in my Bible study, what do you love about the Bible study? What do you really not like about the Bible study? Please give me your honest feedback. And then, what would you like in the future? All of those changes will tell me what they want, and I will mold that Bible study into exactly what they need. And then they'll come back. Right? Same thing with your church services and everything else. Now, speaking of feedback, on your table, you will see feedback form here. This is for me, because I live by these practices. I would really, really love you to give me your honest feedback here. This is something that I do. I do this online. I do this in person. I would love to know, what did you love about the training today? And then, of course, last time we met, what do you feel could be improved? What do you feel met your needs most in this training? And then lastly, if you would please, and this really helps the website, just with people saying, hey, I want to do that meeting, is if you just give a 1 to 3 sentence, just testimonial saying, if you loved it, this course, this intensive training was really helpful because of whatever, 3 stars, 5 stars, whatever your thoughts and impressions are. Those types of things I get to use in marketing material. You guys should be asking for those as well, because those can go right on your website when someone's scrolling around looking for a church. The one with other people talking good about it is the one that'll get picked. Okay, but I'd really appreciate it if you'd fill that out here. I'll pick those up at the end.
Don't stop now. We have tons of other videos for you to watch and learn how to reach more people more effectively. If you loved this video and you don't want to miss out on what we have coming up for you next, go ahead, hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and ring the bell to keep up to date on our newest content. If you'd like to work with Clickmill personally, head on over to clickmill.co, where you can learn more about our proven marketing strategies. I look forward to seeing you in the very next video.